89.9 KMOJ, the People Station. Twin Cities is Glam Life Kim on this. Well, I was going to say beautiful. It's not that it's a beautiful day because it's a gray day, but it is a little chilly, but it's not so cold. So it's still a nice day, right? I have right now Anthony Taylor on the line, one of my favoriteest people in the Twin Cities, and we are getting ready for Minneapolis 360. Anthony, you ready?
I'm ready. Kim, what you mean? This is a gorgeous day.
Okay.
I mean, we ain't freezing. I mean, come on.
We are not freezing. That is very true. And it is not negative, and it is not even 10. I think it's, what is it, probably about 30, maybe?
Yeah, it's in the 30s. You know, things is melting a little bit. So this is gorgeous. And any day, you know, that we can be together is always a beautiful day. Let's be honest,
that's
right?
That's the truth. That's a true statement.
I always enjoy doing this show with you, Kim, and it's always my pleasure to talk to you. How things with you? I want to do an on-air check-in. You good, sis?
Oh, you know what? I am blessed and highly favored. I ain't going to lie. God has been good to me.
I heard that. And I can always hear it in your voice. I'm doing well. You know, it's a new year, new challenges, yes. New things happening, fun things. So I'm excited about what 2022 brings.
Yes,
right.
Me
so
as well.
We have to as a people, and it's also Black History Month. So I've been doing a lot of different programmings and different panels and listening to people and just the beauty of us. I mean, we Black every day of the year, but it seems to me that when I can get some food for my soul and hear, like I heard Alyssa Jones speak last week, and I heard Duchess Harris and Brittany Delaney speak last week during the Black History Month panel, and just the brilliance of those three sisters was just really dope to me. So,
oh my God, I bet
it filled my bucket up for real, y'all. So. Listen, thank y'all for joining. This is Minneapolis 360. I'm your host, Anthony Taylor, with Glam Life Kim, today with you every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 1 o'clock. I am from the Department of Neighborhood and Community Relations in the city, and this is Minneapolis 360. And always as we talk Minneapolis, I'd like to give you just some information on some of the things that I think is important. And our topic today is really alternatives to police response. And we'll get into it and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But before I kind of give some of the depth of the show, I just want to just remind folks just briefly, you know, I think if you've been listening to my show for a while, I stopped for a long time giving out COVID stats, not necessarily because it's not important, it's very important, but also just I like to give people reminders, right, of just to mask up. If you think a vaccine is good for you and your family and your children, please, I encourage you to do so. Also, just social distancing, please keep that in the forefront of our brains. And some of the things that I've been seeing also, too, is that we may be peaking in this Omicron. So I want to encourage people just to kind of please continue to do the things that we need to do. We know where we're at in year 3 of COVID. So just please protect yourself. But I'm excited about this topic, Minneapolis, because I think we've had this topic before a few months ago, and it's really evolves around alternatives to police response. So what does reimagining public safety beyond policing look like? So if I give you an example, right? So if someone, you know, steals your property or something's been stolen or you need help in an emergency, these are a lot of different responses that don't require police responding, right? So if you or your loved one or somebody that you know, a family member, a neighbor, may be experiencing a mental health crisis or a mental health breakdown that does not always need police response. Minneapolis is issuing out some pilot programs that I think is super, super good to be able to roll out to community. I've got Gina O'Beary from the Office of Performance and Innovation is going to come and talk to us about this and all the meat and details that go into it. So I encourage people, please, to call in if you have questions with Gina, because she really wants to answer questions regarding our community safety and what that looks like. So, Gina, welcome to Minneapolis 360. How you feeling? How you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me back, Anthony. I'm excited to share the work and to answer any questions that folks might have calling in. So yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be back.
Absolutely. And I know you had Brian Smith on last time, and we couldn't even get through a lot of our information. So I kind of really want to dig into it. But first, Gina, just tell folks a little bit about the Office of Performance and Innovation and your role, because I don't know if a lot of people understands that title, but there's a lot going on with your department.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So the Office of Performance and Innovation is one of the divisions in the city coordinator's office, and we work with elected officials, with community, with other departments to take a look at the services that the city offers and figure out how we might be able to make some improvements or to create something new to solve an issue that community might have so that we can serve them better.
And Gina, right? So let's dig into it, right? We are talking about reimagining public safety, reimagining the traditional approaches to policing. Kind of break down why is the city doing this around public safety?
That is actually a great question, and Anthony, as we know and have seen quite a lot right now, community is demanding and has been demanding changes. These demands have been spoken for decades. They're continuing to be spoken now, especially as Black and brown lives continue to be harmed by our public safety system because it leans on punishment rather than care. And these specific alternatives came about because in 2019, the City Council asked our team to research and look into what it would look like to provide some alternative responses to public safety issues that don't involve police. So we're excited to share that some of those new programs have started or they're in development.
And Gina, talk to us about that, right? And really what's interesting to me is I think is really important for folks to know in our city, and I kind of touched on it a little bit about some of the mental health responses, right? Mental health emergencies. And I know there are some programs that are happening. So can you kind of just talk to Minneapolis, talk to us about what are those pilot programs and what is it really doing for our community?
Most definitely, Anthony. So we do have 3 pilots around mental health issues or emergencies. And that first one that I'll start with is actually that alternative response to police. So a different group who is now going to come out if someone calls in with a mental health crisis that is eligible for that response. So that is called the Behavioral Crisis Response Team, or BCR. And they're a mobile crisis intervention program that will send unarmed, highly trained, non-police response to eligible mental health crisis 911 calls. And the goal is to provide that empathetic care and really get the people the support that they need and avoid that forced hospitalization or arrest. So that's that alternative response that is now available. One of the other pilots that we have in place now is in connection to that new program, and that's 911 staff will receive additional and specialized mental health dispatch training. And the goal of that was to really provide some extra support to our very skilled 911 dispatchers to make sure that they're able to send the right calls to the BCR. And then the third mental health pilot that we're working on is currently in development and should be available later this year. And we'll be placing mental health professionals within 911 on the floor to assist with those mental health emergency calls when they come in. And that goal is to help people in crisis before a response even arrives, to see how we can provide, some guidance, some support in the moment while they are waiting for that response, or maybe calming them down or resolving the situation before a response actually is needed, and then diverting that.
We're talking with Gina Obiri, Office of Performance and Innovation at the City of Minneapolis, talking about alternatives to police response. What does reimagining public safety look like? I encourage folks to call 612-377 888-866-3456. Now, Gina, just to back up a little bit on these response teams, like you talk about highly trained, eligible people. Like, what does that mean? Can you kind of just talk a little bit about the training? What do you look for in some of these responders that are going to be in the streets helping folks? Kind of go into that a little bit, if you could.
Yeah, most definitely. So our responders come from all over the mental health field. They have experience working in community-based mental health roles, such as case management, ARMS services, which stands for Adult Rehabilitative Mental Health Services, or things like in-home therapy. They have also been highly trained in crisis intervention and then nonviolent physical holds and disengagement, just in case something escalates, but so that they can make sure that they keep community members safe, as well as keeping themselves, the responders, safe.
And another follow-up, too, because I always try to put myself in a community member's role, too, and I am a community member. But with this show, I just want to make sure that I ask folks questions that I think other people will ask. And one of the questions that comes to me as we talk is there been an emphasis on having people of color be part of these people who are trained and coming out to community?
Certainly, we really wanted the responders and who are actually going out to support our community members to look like the community. So there is a big emphasis on encouraging folks from diverse backgrounds, whether that's race or gender, people who speak different languages, all of those folks to apply. And we have created a very diverse team with the responders that we have hired now. And there's still spots for other shifts that we want to expand the program to. So if folks are interested who are out there listening, feel free to visit the Canopy Mental Health and Consulting website and click on the job or career opportunity section there, and you'll see how to apply for this sort of role.
We are talking with Gina O'Beary from the Office of Performance and Innovation, City of Minneapolis. I encourage folks to call in 612-377-3456 if you have a question for Gina. So now, Gina, we've talked about mental health emergencies, right? What's the city doing now for like nonviolent emergencies? How are things kind of shifted from the past with non-emergency situations?
That's a great question. And so we have two pilots that are active right now about reporting those non-emergency issues to the city. Both of those really try to free up that 911 and police time for more urgent calls. And the first is if you experience a nonviolent theft or property damage in Minneapolis and you need to file a police report, you would now call 311 to complete your report over the phone, or you can also submit that report online by going to the 311 webpage. Previously, a lot of those calls were going to 911, and then a officer was coming out in person. Those sorts of calls can take a long time for the officer to just complete a report, which our 311 agents are highly trained to do, or folks can do themselves online. So we really thought that was a clear opportunity to free up that time for 911 dispatchers and call takers to take more of those emergency calls quicker, and also for officers to be able to respond to those more urgent calls or more violent calls, and wanted to shift that away from them. And then the second is currently in the planning stages, and that involves sending out a non-police city employee to take reports from Minneapolis community members in person, because we do know that for some folks it is easier to have an in-person response to help you complete that report. So wanting to still be able to offer that piece of service, but in a non-police way.
And I actually think that's pretty encouraging, right, Gina? Because if we're talking about sending out a non-police city employee, a lot of us who work in the city have relationships in community with people. So I would actually enjoy seeing a colleague of mine or somebody I know who's solid in community and solid in their work, been able to come out and assist me in a time of need. I think that's a really crucial part to this part when you talked about that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Anthony, and that kind of echoes a lot of what we heard when we were engaging with community. Is that a lot of folks who were having these issues were not reporting them because they didn't want to have police coming into their community or coming into their home, so they were, just dealing with it themselves or having it go without any sort of report to the city. Even if they needed that report for insurance purposes or just other documentation. So we're excited to be able to offer that.
Talking with Gina Obiri, Officer of Performance and Innovation, City of Minneapolis, talking about different alternatives to police response. She talked about the mental health emergencies and the different pilot programs that are out. Also a different way to report non-emergencies. And I want to just kind of backtrack a little bit. When you started talking before, Gina, you said the community has been demanding changes for decades, right? And really how harmful it is, the public safety system, leans on black folks and its punishment, and a lot of that to me, and I think other people think that it is a lot based on race and revenue. Right, so you talk about that these pilot programs are started because of demands and changes. Just go to a little bit of history about why the city has started to develop these programs.
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit and share a little bit of that history. So in 2019, Minneapolis City Council asked our office to do that research into those alternative responses. And during that research, our team tried to be really intentional about speaking directly with residents. And that, started right as COVID started as well, so we weren't able to do a whole lot of in-person work as we were figuring out how to transfer all of the work that our team usually does into a virtual environment. So we decided to send out surveys and had an amazing response from community, and received over 8,000 survey responses, and then analyzed over 23,000 open-ended statements where people really described their experiences of what it's like to have a police response to those mental health emergencies or when reporting those nonviolent or non-emergency issues. So at the end of that, we listened to what the community wanted and worked with city officials to make them a reality. We also spoke with similar programs across the country that have been doing this type of response safely for years. And we learned about their positive outcomes and that generally there's little need for police backup.
And I think that's super important. And I want to ask kind of a follow-up to that question. I mean, like, if you got over 8,000 survey responses and 23,000 open-ended statements, I can imagine a lot of the depth of responses that you got and what people were talking about. Can you talk maybe about one theme, like overall theme out of all of these responses? What was the number one things that folks kind of reacted to in this survey?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to pick one, but for mental health crises specifically, something that we found that was really interesting was that 95% of respondents wanted a mental health professional or social worker rather than a police response. So that overwhelming interest in having someone who has the in-depth specialized training to really support and provide care during a mental health emergency was something that we felt was very important and that we wanted to use as a clear call to action for our team. So we're really proud that we were able to make that happen and launch those behavioral crisis teams. And then kind of more generally across both those mental health emergency issues along with the non-emergency reporting ones, something that we found was that, folks have some discomfort with calling 911 to ask for support or for help when they need it, especially for the Black and brown respondents who completed the survey or who we spoke with in our community workshops. It's that 911 call is associated with a police response, which, we as Black folks have learned is usually not a safe interaction for us. So really wanting to figure out how we can offer alternatives so that we can make folks more comfortable and more trusting that when they call to ask for support for their issue, that they are going to get something that's safe, that is there to respond to what they are calling for, and figuring out if we can just make that easier for community to be able to trust the city to offer the support that they need.
We are talking with Gina O'Beary, Office of Performance and Innovation, City of Minneapolis, talking about different responses to or alternatives to police response. And as we run up against the clock, we've got a few minutes. I encourage folks still, if you have time, to call to ask Gina about anything that she's talked about, which is great information, Minneapolis. I mean, let's just be honest about, I think, what the overall theme, and I know, Gina, it was hard for you to just pick out one, and that's just the fact that who can come help me that is not armed. And from the history of policing, especially in this city, that's important, who shows up at my residence. Because I think a lot of time, and you could talk about it more than I can, but mental health is something that is not a sticker on somebody's face, right? They don't wear different clothes, and how having a mental health professional who can de-escalate and get people out of situations that historically could become life-threatening, I think is super important. So I'm excited about this pilot program and what's been going on now. And Gina, you can speak to that too, and also just who also can receive these services, and how can I access any one of these services that you talked about here?
That's a great question, Anthony. And these services are available to anyone in Minneapolis who needs support with one of the issues that we've been talking about, so those mental health crises or reporting those non-emergency issues. And if you are experiencing or witnessing a mental health crisis, you can call 911, and the BCR will be sent out if it's an appropriate call for them. And for those non-emergency issues, community members can complete a report by calling 311 or going to the city website on the 311's page, or downloading the 311 app on their phone. You can complete it that way. There is one thing I do want to note, just so folks know what to expect, is that because we're a pilot, we're not as big operating as the police force, for example. So there may be times where a call comes in and both of the vans, we have 2 vans right now with teams of 2, both of those vans are out supporting community members on other calls. And so MPD may be still responding to some of those. Also, the operating hours for the program right now are Monday through Friday, 24 hours. So those teams are not available on the weekends just yet, but we plan to expand to full 24/7 response as we move forward this year.
Gina, this has been great information that you've provided community. And as we wrap up, want to just let you just tell people how folks can kind of learn more about this work, and maybe some exciting or different things that's coming down the line from the Office of Performance and Innovation.
Yeah, so we are actually very excited to announce that our office will be launching a public safety awareness campaign this month to learn more about these programs. So we hope that this campaign will help the community to learn what options exist and build that trust in getting the right response at the right time. So be sure to follow the City of Minneapolis on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor, whatever social media channels that you interact with, to see the content and share with your friends. We'll also be having some block parties as part of that campaign this summer. So hopefully we'll be back on the show to give the people the information on how to attend that and learn more, have a little bit of fun this summer. And also it's on the city website, so feel free to go there as well. You should see how to learn more about community safety or those alternatives to police response. And Yeah, super excited to be on the show today, Anthony. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, Gina, I was glad that you were able to come back on. I know Brian wasn't able to come on as well, but I think this is just so important. Listen, that block party sounds really fun.
Doesn't it?
Don't it? You know, get some barbecue, some music. So I want to
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for being on today.
Absolutely. Good information.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Anthony.
Yes.
I think that's important, Kim, especially with the mental health response, right? What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And as you just said, I mean, you never know where a person's mind state is, and mental health is real, you know? So you can't just send anybody in your home. And even with that, you know, just with the police officers and with everything going on, you know, if they come in and somebody doesn't feel safe or is worried or, you know what I mean? Like, or their mind state isn't right, that could just cause a whole nother, you know, a whole nother situation. So I like the idea of having, you know, someone who, you know, is experienced and who can de-escalate a situation, you know, and that doesn't have to have, you know, a gun on their side or something that's going to agitate a situation even more.
Absolutely, and come with some compassion, come with some empathy, right, to situations that I don't think always police aren't built like that. They're not trained like that. But I think empathy and compassion in times of crisis
Yes.
is important, right?
Very important.
So I thank you for always being next to me, sis. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look forward to continuing to have some good weather like today, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And Minneapolis, enjoy it while it's here, because tomorrow we could be in the freezer. So
That is the truth.
yeah. Thank y'all.
All right. Twin Cities, we're about to get back into the music. And I also want to send my love out to the family of Amir Loke, little buddy, my friend Andre Loke and his family. We still have prayers going out to you guys. One love, Twin Cities. My time is up, but your favorite is brother, Mr. Bake Show Baker, Mr. Diddy in the city, Mr. Can't Stop, Won't Stop, Don't Stop, Mr. Have It All. He is up next.